To say that I have loathing for YouTube is. Hold on a second so I don't get an echo here. Is slightly an understatement. Um, like Indigenous says, I imagine I'm in the right place. Your show wouldn't be your show without tech. Every single show I've ever had in the last, going on to 4 years now, under different names before or whatever, has had technical difficulties. What's up, Bez and Glasgow and I think Indigenous? Anybody else who happens to be watching or whatever? Remember all the usual YouTube bullshit, to give a like, a comment, a subscribe, all that crap. Okay. Y'all know all that. Alright. Thank you. Yeah, I love the hat too. I was hoping to find one. I have a black one, exactly like it, same size, whatever. I was hoping to find one that had the flat brim on top, like an Irish Derby, like, what the heck is his name? The Edge War. Excuse me. In the YouTube video, still haven't found what I'm looking for. Okay, I love that hat, but I can't find one that's big enough to fit my big ass head. Anyway, Glasscloth says they've been better hiding from the world for a while. Sometimes we need it. Believe me, sometimes we need it. I've done a couple of shows the last month or so on self-care and whatever, and I think I'm probably just going to start doing that once a month, maybe. Especially in the fascist hellscape we're living in. So, in case you haven't garnered it by now, I am the Angry Wrench. The Angry Wrench Speaks is this show. I cover politics, food, religion, sex, whatever. Generally politics, especially lately. Gee, I wonder why. But, I can cover just about anything. I've also covered art, all kinds of stuff. But generally, politics and social issues are the main two things that you'll find on this channel. I'm not going to go into a really long intro. For those of you who have seen me before, you know what it is. For those of you who haven't, just think of somebody who is very lefty and very mouthy. And you got me. I'm also on occasion profane. I usually wait until like 60 seconds go by on YouTube, which is past that now. I'm not worried about monetization. I have 159 subscribers. Oh boy, got to get 1,000. So I'm not really worried about it. So if I let the occasional fuck or shit or whatever motherfucker come through, if that's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But I'm not changing it, and if you don't like it, then this is not the channel for you. All right, and I'm also not going to say it every other word. So, the title of the show is "How is the immoral marriage of religion and oligarchy trying to destroy America?" So I'm going to get right into it. Let me bring my showrunner up here. Was it Joey? Indigenous said? Yeah. And, no. Is it Mez said? Who said it? Anyway, it wouldn't, like Indigenous said, yeah, it wouldn't be my show without technical difficulties. Alright, so also, before I get into that, I'm not doing all the ad crap. There is going to be, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine. She has a podcast called At Home in My Head, which is on YouTube, and then she's also on BlueSky, and I've got her links in the pinned description. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to start putting the, I've already got it now set up, okay, so that I can just copy and paste it, when the show is done, and take like 2-3 minutes, and you have all the links that I talk about, the topics that I talk about in the show. If something is my opinion, I'll say, if I think it's just my opinion, I'll say so. If I think somebody is backed up by fact, I will say so, and then I will bring receipts. I will bring backup for it. Okay, I'm not just going to run my mouth and tell you, believe me just because I'm me. It ain't happening. I ain't going to do it for anybody else. I don't expect you to do it for me. So, having said that, the two most prevalent religious movements in America for the last, 45 years or so, I graduated in 78, have been the moral majority and the current Pentecostal movement, and I'll get into that. The moral majority did like the satanic panic, and it had, wanted to cancel this and cancel that and cancel whatever. I've got a link which I may even add to this description of, there's a list that's like 171 things that conservatives have or have tried to cancel, but the left is supposed to be the cancel culture. Okay. And like I said, I'm a leftist. I don't get in deeply into, arguing whether it's, this is socialism or communism or whatever. Okay. I'm also not a Democrat, although I often vote Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. A lot of Democrats think that they should be, and Republicans think that anyone who is left of hunting the homeless is a socialist. Okay, the big bad S word. Trump in the last campaign, was running against Kamala, literally in one sentence in this order, called her a Marxist. Let's see, it was Marxist, Marxist, communist, democratic, socialist. But this is the same guy who looked into the sun during an eclipse and all that stuff, so, yeah. All right. So, anyway, so those are the two main ones. Like I said, I remember the Satanic Panic. I remember my relatives. I've played D&D since I was, 79. 1979 I started when I was in the service. And, some of my relatives would call me and say, are you okay? You're not worshiping the devil, are you? And whatever. And at this time, I was still in the religious cult, which is what Pentecostalism is. It's a cult, period. I don't care how many people you got. There's an old saw that goes, the only difference between a cult and a religion is the number of followers. Okay. But like I said, they would call and ask me if I was okay or whatever, and some of them were genuinely worried about me, okay, and even though it was based on incorrect assumptions and data and whatever, they weren't, and when I explained to them what it was, then they're like, oh, okay, whatever, not a big deal. Some other family members that I haven't talked to for 40 years had a different reaction, and it's the reason I haven't talked to them for over 40 years. Okay, the moral majority was founded in 79 by the Baptist hate minister, that's what I call him. The late, and I'm glad he's late, every day, not every day, but every once in a while I think, you know what? Jerry Falwell is still dead. Same for Rush Limbaugh, same for Pat Buchanan, whoever. Or not Pat Buchanan, Pat Robertson. Okay, yeah, they're dead. I'm not the type of person to go, oh, well, you shouldn't talk ill of the dead. No, if I hated the son of bitches before, when they were alive, I'm going to hate the son of bitches after they die. I don't care. The Pentecostalism movement started somewhat in America, but also in other countries, continents, Latin America, Africa, Asia, etc. There's a lot of Pentecostal Christians in China and in Japan. So it's not just American, even though they think that Jeebus spoke English apparently. It's also the basis for a lot of the hate-filled Christian bigots today and bigotry. I know, I was one for 30-odd years, okay? You can't take back harm that you do, okay? And it doesn't matter what I do for the rest of my life, that's not going to negate the harm that I did. And I own up to that. I own up to it completely. I've said this before. When I was raised, and I was raised this way, and it didn't start breaking down until I was in my very early 30s, I was very racist, very homophobic, self-loathing, of course, very homophobic, very misogynistic, queerphobic, not just homophobic, white Christian nationalist. If y'all who kind of agree with my stances and whatever now had met me then, you probably would have hated my guts. I know I would have hated my guts. Okay. So, and I don't take this to mean, that you should be necessarily, polite to everybody and whatever, because I hate tone policing. But you just got to remember that there may be a few people, small percentage, but there may be a few people who might go, that doesn't, talking about religion, somebody will say something about religion like a talking snake or whatever. Well, that doesn't sound quite right. Or, when Noah supposedly lived over 900 years. No, that doesn't sound quite right. Okay. And then they might go, start thinking a little more. What saved my life and my sanity was me acknowledging that I was trans. And that started breaking all the walls down. Glasgow says, oh, yep, you said they've been better. Okay. So, These are the people that decided that they're decidedly anti-woke, anti-queer, anti-woman, anti-college, anti-education at all, really, anti-choice. And you say, oh, well, what are they for? Lots of things they're for. Pro-wife grape, pro-child abuse, pro-misogyny, pro-racism, pro-forced birth, pro-putting people in concentration camps that they say they're detention facilities. Now, they have to use that word. Glasgow says, I was raised by a fascist multiculturalism and growing up in the Irish Catholic area saved me. Yeah, you know. I have some words for the Catholic Church, but there's a lot there that's more cultural, Like one of my favorite comedians of all time, to my knowledge, still a good guy. He's not only good because he's a comedian, but he started out life as he wanted to be a physicist, as Daryl Brain. And he has a joke where, he says, so he was early on when he was doing religion in his routines. He said, so yeah, I grew up in Ireland, he says, and I'm atheist, but still Catholic. So, so now we're going to get into the connection between that and Project 2025. Okay, because I'm not going to go into great detail on Project 25. I'll hit a few points. Okay, but most people know what it is. You can look it up online. There's all sorts of places you can look. If you have a particular comment about it, or you want to look for a particular site, you're having problems finding it, whatever, just hit me up in the comments below. Because if you say it in the comment section, in the chat section, I will not remember it. Okay, I'm ADHD, autistic, and ADHD, and my memory is whatever. Okay, but yet I remember stuff from 35 years ago. Okay. Anyway, so Project 2025 is rife with, is full of what the religionists, is what I call them, want for America. Kind of the Handmaid's Tale, okay, and that conflation has been made on all sorts of social media. They want a white-dominated hierarchical society where the white, cis, rich male, because if you're poor, you still have that privilege. You still have white privilege, okay? But if you're poor, you don't have the privilege that the wealthy have, or even the moderately. I'm not even talking like billionaires. If you make $100 grand a year, that's roughly $50 an hour. How many people do you know? Your average person that's watching me, or maybe watching me later, or whatever. How many people do you know personally that make $50 an hour or more? And that's just $100 grand a year. Okay, so if you're going to make $1 million grand a year, that's $500 an hour. Now you're talking lawyer territory, good lawyers. Let alone, whatever it is that, Elon would be worth, and, and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg is what I call him, and, all the rest. Mark Cuban, even though there's some stances of his I like, he's still a billionaire. I don't care. Taylor Swift, Beyonce, billionaires are billionaires are billionaires. They can, say they like this or that or whatever, and I think in the case of Taylor Swift, I do think that she genuinely has a lot of good intent, but she's still a billionaire. Doesn't matter. She's still a billionaire. Okay. People are literally starving to death in America. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay, but they're food hungry or whatever the term I forget is called. Okay, and they got they have private jets or whatever. Indigenous said, my dad was a bigot in many ways. My mom countered him with her non-bigotry at every turn when he'd spout some bullshit. Good. That's another thing, too. It's very, very, very common. Glasgow says she made a negative comment about the brain surgery and saved my life because he was Nigerian. Jesus fucking Christ. So, that's another thing, point, too, though. You'll know a lot of people, especially women versus male, okay? You'll know a lot of women who are in a cishet relationship, and they're, relatively liberal. And it's not a complete criticism, because I use that as a criticism quite often, but it's not a complete criticism in this case. But they're liberal, small l, in their thinking. And then their boyfriend, girlfriend with, or married with, or whatever, some complete and utter misogynistic, queerphobic, racist jackass. And they go, well, I'm trying to change him. Okay, whatever. So you have the hierarchy. You have white male, okay. Then below that you have white female, okay, white cishet female, by the way. Then you have black male. and then you have black cishet male, and then you have black cishet female. Okay, then you have Latino cishet men, then you have Latino cishet women, and then Asians, whatever, on down the line. You still kind of have that. Whoops, you still kind of have that. What do you call it? Model minority is what a friend of mine, Asian friend of mine, called it. Where for example, with a lot of Asians, they say, oh well, they are good at math and they're good at science and they're good at this and that and whatever, which is a lot farther than what it used to be when they first started coming over to this country. Okay, or like during the pandemic, when she many times, and she still does once in a while, would get accused of you're the one, your people are the ones that brought COVID over or whatever. Okay. So the Project 2025 people, one of whom is J.D. Vance, even though he tries like hell to distance himself from it, he wrote a foreword to it. Okay, many of the people who are currently in the government are also architects of Project 2025. It's more than just one or two people. Okay, but they don't want just that domination, that part of society. Okay. They also want to abolish the Department of Education, which is what Trump is trying to do, okay, and cut federal education funding, again, which is what Trump is trying to do, okay. We're going to get into that too, believe me. They want to replace merit-based civil service workers with loyal lackeys, okay. There was I do not remember his name. If somebody wants to look it up and post it in the chat, that would be fine. But there was, I think he was a 1-star or 2-star general, black general, who was fired from Pete, I can drink anybody under the table, Hegseth, and then hired, was it his brother-in-law or somebody? Hired brother, in the defense department, because that's what you do apparently. It's okay to be for the nepotism if it's Republican based. They also want to reduce corporate taxes. Well, look at the tax cut. See, a lot of this whole Doge thing and the whole we're going to cut the Department of Education, and we're going to cut this, and we're going to cut that, is so that they can then do the tax cut that's coming in the summer. Okay, it's either 2.1 or 2.7 trillion dollar tax cut. Yay. Okay. Meanwhile, like I said, we have people going hungry. We have all kinds of homeless people. There's more than 300,000 homeless veterans. I'm a veteran. More than 300,000 homeless veterans in America. Do they care? No. They'll use the support the troops slogan of whenever anybody questions anything that they do, or if they want to use them as a prop, which is short for propaganda. And that's a good way to put it. Or when it comes to a gay soldier or a lesbian Navy personnel or whatever, no, we can't support that. One of my friends is a naturalized citizen, okay? Came over here when they were very, very young, adopted from an orphanage, became an American citizen, went through all the steps and whatever, okay? Became an American citizen, went into the military, was a Marine, okay? And they're worried, they're scared, understandably so, and they're worried that they'll get deported, okay? And if they're lucky, okay, they'll get deported to the country that they came from, or a similar country, okay. Instead of, if they're not, it'll be thrown into some gulag, a concentration camp, because that's what these prison centers are. They're concentration camps, period. That's all it is, okay. Another thing you'll find out on this show, if you don't follow me on a regular basis, is that I'm not one to use euphemisms if I don't need to, if I don't have to, or if I don't feel like it. Okay, so these aren't just prisons, these are concentration camps, period. Okay, no different than, in fact, actually it's a little better, worse conditions than what the Japanese went through in World War II. If you don't know what that is, go to Wikipedia, look up Japanese Americans, 1942. You'll find all about it. Glasgow says a lot of countries are warning against travel to the U.S. over concerns it could be needlessly detained. Yeah, Canada's one, for example, and there was a woman who, from what I remember, because my memory, reading, she wandered over the border. She didn't, do it intentionally, whatever. Okay, and they detained her, put her in jail for like 2 weeks or whatever it was. Some brief. It was a brief time, relatively brief. Okay, and what? So, little Mr. Tariff boy decided to do. Yesterday was the day of liberation. Okay. Stock market is continuing to tank. Tesla stocks are continuing to tank. But he's a best he's a great businessman, right? He's the best businessman ever. The amount of bullshit that the cultist will swallow, because that's where his power comes from. Yeah, he's got the money from Lone Scum, Elon. He's got the money from Lone Scum. He's got the money from his other rich buddies and whatever. Okay, but without those people, without that cultist group that he's got, that believes everything he says, he has no real power at all. Okay. They also want to roll back environmental regulations, because, why would you care about this world if God's going to destroy it for the next one, Which is why they also want to, they say they support Israel. They don't give a shit about Israel, okay? Flat out don't. Billy Graham, who everybody's, Billy Graham is a friend of Israel and the Jews and whatever. No, there are tapes from the Michigan, from Nixon, where he was having conversations with Nixon. I know this goes back a ways, okay, a day or two, but where he was using a lot of anti-Semitic slurs and stuff because he hated the Jews. But according to their Bible, Israel has to be a country in order to bring about Armageddon, because it's a death cult. That's all it is. It's a death cult. You can pretty it up all you want, and say Jesus make it mild and whatever, but it's a death cult. Okay. For example, I'll make my point really quick. Okay, which is unusual for me, as you know. No. Okay, so here's my way to prove that Christianity is a death cult. Let's use John 3:16. Like I said, I was a Christian for many, many, many years. I know the Bible quite well still. Let's use John 3:16. Okay, so for he loved the world so much, I'm paraphrasing, for God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever should believeth on him should not perish but have everlasting life. Okay? So, let's put it in modern terms. We'll give you an analogy. Indigenous says, I read there was a German man who was detained for a few days. They denied him his meds too. He was white. Yeah. Doesn't matter, Glasscoff says, I think a Dutch bastard got refused entry over anti-Trump material on their phone tooling. Yeah, exactly. So, let's say you're a parent, okay, and you have Bob and Barney, okay, and their kids, they mess up every once in a while, and then they don't, and sometimes they're good. And one day, Bob comes home. They're playing outside. Bob comes back in the house and says, hey, Barney just broke a window in the neighbor's house intentionally. He just picked up a rock and threw it right out the window. Okay, so you bring Bob back out, okay, to double check to make sure. Excuse me. And you look and you see, sure enough, Barney threw the rock, okay, and he admits to throwing the rock, okay. So what do? You beat Bob to death. A horrific, horrible, disgusting, immoral, vicious, savage, deadly being that he dies from, okay, it's so bad that people, still reference it thousands of years later. Then you turn to Barney and you say, well, look at how, see, this happened because you were bad. If you hadn't broken the window, I wouldn't have had to kill Bob. That's Christianity. That's the sacrifice. That's the scapegoat, what Christianity is. Okay? So this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with this level of cultism, that it just, it's, okay, knock wood. It is really hard to get through, very hard to get through, and to deprogram people. Mark Twain said, and I don't think he was the first one who said it, that it's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them they've been fooled. They want stricter immigration policies, including mass deportations, like what we've been talking about in the chat. Okay. They also want to allow minors to work more jobs, longer hours, in hazardous jobs, okay, without parental consent. Florida even wants to change the laws so not only can minors work more hours while they're in school, okay, obviously not physically in school, but during the school period or whatever. Okay, but they want them to be able to work overnight. Because to hell with school, to hell with your grades, to hell with everything else. We want you to work, especially because because of this immigration policy and whatever. A lot of people said to Florida and a few other places. Okay, and so there's I'm telling you right now, it's bad enough with the tariffs and whatever. Wait until early summer or late summer to early fall. So like say end of July, maybe first week or two of August. From there until I predict from there until October, prices are going to skyrocket because a lot of that stuff is going to be in the fields, and they don't have anybody to pick it. They don't have anybody to pull it into buckets or whatever, because of the immigration policies, and that's going to make prices skyrocket. Right now, a friend of mine in Australia said, and it's not just here in America. A friend of mine in Australia said that a box of what was it? 180 or 12 should be 10. 12 boxes of a dozen eggs. Okay, was the American equivalent. Okay, of $76 for eggs. And it's going to get higher. It's not going to get lower. I can guarantee you, it's not going to get lower. It's going to get higher. Okay. They want to weaken labor unions, if not destroy them entirely. They want to weaken and worker protections. They want to get rid of completely OSHA, so that you can go into that job and you can go into like say, Walmart or some sewage company or whatever. Okay, and you can work. If you don't want to work, if you're going to work and we ask you to work and you want a mask, to protect you from sewage, because you can die from the methane. Okay, sorry, buddy, you're fired. We'll go get somebody else. No protection whatsoever. But how are they going to do that? How are they going to do all of that? Project 2025. So, and I don't want to sound conspiracy theorist-ish. Okay, and I know it does. Okay, granted, I know it does. But I don't think that Kamala lost all of the elections. And I'll give you an example why. Okay. What's up, Blair? Indigenous says, fucking conservative fragility is ruling my nation right now. Yeah. So I'll give you a reason why I don't completely believe in it, but I don't completely discount it either. Okay, so that last couple of weeks, whatever, before the election, okay, there were 7 battleground states. Michigan was one, Wisconsin was one, etc., Pennsylvania, whatever, etc. Okay. Michigan went for Trump, it's like by 1.4%, something like that. I don't remember the exact amount, okay. Remember, it's a landslide if it's 1.4%, okay. Wisconsin supposedly went for this too. Okay, so all 7 states somehow, just happened to get over the bump. Okay. And then Trump is even mentioned directly. You can look it up on YouTube, where he said, whether or not it's true, but he said, that they fixed the elections. Glasscock said he needs to currently juggle pretending to care about farmers while saying we should accept lower standards, chicken eggs, yeah, etc. So, where was it? Oh, so there's all this. It's just too fishy to me. And I know a lot of people, on the right, said the same thing, during the 2020 election. But I think there's actually some circumstantial, but I think there's some evidence here. Okay, let alone the fact that Ivanka got the patents for voting machines quite some time back. Anyway, so. The reason that I think that it's garbage is, let's just take Wisconsin, for example, okay? It's a swing state, and Trump took it, okay? And of course, I took it by a landslide. No, it was very, very little, but he took it, supposedly, okay? And then, of course, he got all the electoral college seats, and don't even get me started on that, because we'll be here for 2 hours on that. So, he supposedly took Wisconsin. Okay, so we had the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Okay, that was decided just a few days ago. It was Cindy Crawford and Brad Schimmel. Okay. They technically aren't Democrat and Republican, because it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but pretty much the the Democratic/liberal runs, and then a Republican/conservative runs. Okay, that's pretty much what it is. Most people in the state who are going to try to fund one or the other will put it in those two parties, like a quote unquote libertarian or whatever. Just usually goes nowhere. Okay, so Crawford is the liberal, Schimmel is the Republican. Elon Musk, or again as I call him, Lone Scum, and his lackeys spent $21 million to try to elect Brad Schimmel. Okay, even to the point of offering people who came to a rally, okay, $100 to come to the rally, and just sign a petition saying that they were going to vote. And then he offered to give, and I think he actually did, give two people $1 million if they signed a petition that they were going to vote and that they held the same values he did. It's vote buying, and it's illegal as fuck. Okay, whether the Democrats do anything about it, I don't know. Glasgow said that said it doesn't matter what the Labor Party has. Project 25 Light, and Indigenous says even as much as I loathe the guy, the last Republican who got an actual mandate was Reagan, not Trump. Okay, yeah. So Reagan got a hell of a mandate too, especially running against Mondale. So anyway, so this Wisconsin race has been all running whatever. Okay, and it's not an acrimonious race like the previous one was. They're kind of doing the normal politician thing stuff. Whatever. Okay, she beat him by 10 points. Okay, now I didn't understand this until 30, 40 years ago, that when they talk about points, they're talking about percentage points. Okay, so she got 55% of the vote, and he got 35% of the vote. Every Wisconsinite can vote, every single one. Okay, so how is it that she got 55%, he got 35%, and yet Trump took the state? Okay, so one of the reasons that the Republicans were so head on trying to get rid of get a conservative in there is the judge before the last judge. So there were 4 conservatives, because there's 7 on the court. There were 4 conservatives and 3 liberals. Okay, and then they had an election because they get elected every 10 years. Okay, I believe it's every 10 years, and they ran, and the last judge that got elected in was a liberal. Okay. But, although technically not a liberal, but the race was so acrimonious, so filled with hatred from the Republican side, that when she won, he refused to call her and congratulate her. Throwing a little hissy fit in his little, throwing a mantrum, as one of my friends calls it. He got hysterical, testerical. And hold on a second. Let me scroll up here so I can catch this a little bit. Okay, like I said, they spent $21 million. Okay, and lost by a lot. Okay, but what's wrong with political spending? Everybody does it. Okay, but like George Orwell said in Animal Farm, everybody's dollars are equal, but some dollars are more equal than others. I'm paraphrasing, of course. So Trump repaid Elon. By the way, what happened to Trump's money troubles? Remember the last couple of weeks, prior to the last couple of weeks in the campaign, their campaign was sinking, the Republican coffers were running out, Laura, whatever the fuck her name is, even took over the chair of the GOP and then funneled all that money, general GOP money, into Trump's campaign, and it still was, dropping down like crazy. Suddenly he's all flush with money. Suddenly he's got all these states, that he's got ads in and this and that and whatever. Gee, I wonder where that money came from. So, to repay those favors, because we pretty much can guess that it was probably Elon Musk, okay, or as I said, Lone Scum. Trump appoints Lone Scum to be the head of DOGE, okay, the Department of Government Efficiency. So first of all, it's illegal as fuck, okay? I don't care what you say about whether or not there's fraud, whether or not there's waste. It is illegal. They have absolutely no power whatsoever to fire anybody, no power to cut any funds, nothing. Okay, legally, And again, Congress does that. Congress is exactly the only one that is supposed to have the power of the purse strings over any government department. Now, Congress may, especially with the 2 houses being in Republican control right now, may be willing to do whatever Trump wants, okay? But they're the ones who should be, either writing legislation to cut funding back or whatever, okay? But nope, they're going to let Doge do it, okay, which is one of the dumbest acronyms I've ever seen. But anyway, so you have these people that say, oh, well, we're going to get rid of waste and fraud. We found all sorts of waste and fraud, okay? So if you have, name it. Name the department where it happened. Name the individuals involved. And why aren't those individuals who are supposed to be committing fraud charged? May or may not be arrested, but why aren't they charged with the crime? Because there is no fucking crime. Because again, the only reason they're there is to cut funds so that at the end of the late spring, early summer, they can try to get this tax cut thing passed. Okay, and that may not be a guarantee, by the way, but they can try to get this tax cut thing passed. Okay, so that the all of Trump's buddies, can get all this money and screw the American people over even worse than what they are now. But like I said, it is a criminal organization, period. Okay, so, however, one of my issues is the complicit behavior, what the word is, of the Democrats and of the government departments. Okay, now the government departments, a lot of them are supposed to be technically nonpartisan, but okay. Doge comes in with no power to legally fire you, and they just left. They resigned. Okay. It was the head of the either FEC or FCC, one of the two. Okay. She said, "No, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to stick it out. You got to force me. I'm going to stick it out." And then a week later, she resigned. If you're going to quit anyway, make them force you out. Oh, he was going to make me, do illegal things, or whatever. Then make him do it. Get it in writing. Get some guts. Get a little bit of spine. Because we are tired, as a general rule, for the Democrats, the slightly lefties, the more lefties, whatever. We are tired and sick and tired of the people in power, Schumer, Pelosi, etc. Jamie Raskin a couple of times, he can, there's other times, he's really ranting and raving about the Republicans, but then when it comes time to it, there's time that he votes for them, along with them, like when they censured Al Green. A black man singing "We Shall Overcome," and we want to preserve the decorum. Fuck you, okay? Fuck you. Because while you're pretending that it's like normal, and this is like, they kind of pretend, this is like the Republican Party of the 1980s or whatever. Okay, no, it's fucking not. It's a MAGA party, not even really Republican anymore. It's a MAGA party, and they're pulling all this bullshit. And you Democrats, some of them aren't, but too many of the Democrats are sitting there with your thumb up your ass or being complicit and voting along with them. And I'm tired of it. And a lot of the American people, millions of American people, are tired of it. Look at the protest that we had yesterday, okay? And there's another protest coming up. Okay, when I get more information about that, I'll post it either on my Facebook or I'll post it in a chat here, okay? Because it's related to this, obviously. But like I said, they have no legal authority to fire anybody. So Doge comes in and says, I was like, why did I pause? Thought I was frozen for a second. Doge comes in and says, you know what, you're all fired, get out. Okay. However, the USADF, which is the United States African Development Fund, said, no, fuck you. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. But no, fuck you, we're not leaving. And so when they first tried to come into the building, the security guard said, you can't come in, you don't have badges. So they threatened to get the federal marshals. So he let him in. I mean, I still think he should have not done so and said, okay, go get the federal marshals, okay. But he, I'm sure that he probably just didn't know what he should do in that case, so he let them in. Took the elevator up to the floor where all the offices were, okay, because they didn't have the entire building, okay, and kept saying that they wanted me to let in the main office or whatever, and they said, no, we're not letting you in. You don't have any hold. You have no power over us. A Labyrinth reference. But you don't have any legal power over us. We're not letting you in. You have no legal authority to come in. So they went back to the federal marshals again, okay, and actually went to them this time. You know, and this is another side thing, okay. I'm tired of people going, oh, well, you know, the courts are going to save us, and the courts don't save us. And then the Justice Department is going to save us, and the Justice Department doesn't save us. And then the Democratic leadership is going to save us, and they don't fucking save us, okay. Nobody's coming to save you. You need to save you, and you need to help save others, okay. Anyway, getting back to the point. So the Doge goes and gets the federal marshals, okay, and they come back, and they did give in this time. They let the federal marshals come in, and so Doge walks in, okay, and do whatever, okay, and they leave. But prior to doing that, they send them all emails and say you're fired, okay. And when they do that, then they strip the department of all the data that they can, okay, and then they leave. And then they send them emails that they're fired. Okay, here's the thing. The reason we are not in further, we're in fascism right now. We're not getting into it, you know, we're not, you know, we're approaching fascism. No, we're in fascism right now, period. They've been snatching people off the streets, all kinds of shit, okay. Sending people all overseas illegally, yeah, we're in fascism right now. But the reason that we're not in full-blown fascism, maybe even concentration camps here, and, you know, who knows, you know, what kind of ovens they might run later. Hold on a second. I'm going to write something down here so I don't forget it. Okay, because like I said, my memory sucks. The reason we're not in full-blown fascism is because of the sheer fucking utter incompetence of these dumbasses. You know, you got these 20 and 30 somethings, and I don't think there's anyone over 30, or maybe very low, in this whole Doge thing, okay? I couldn't find a more incompetent group I mean, I could if I tried, but, you know, I'd have to go into Trump's family. But anyway. So they walk in, they tell everybody they're fired. Okay, those people believe them, say, okay, they leave. Okay. So eventually they leave, okay. They tried it with that, okay. And like I said, you know, they kept pushing back at it. So initially, they sent them all emails and said, you're fired. Here's the problem. They didn't know their emails. Didn't know their actual emails. You know, like, you know, johndoe.com, whatever it was, okay. So all they had to do was guess at the names, the spelling of the names, and whatever the thing was at the end, like at gmail.com or whatever, okay. So they sent an email to all of the board members, all right, as first name, last name at gmail.com or icloud.com or usaadf.org, which isn't even the site, okay. And they spelled some of the board members' names wrong in the emails, number one, okay, and as a result, only one person actually received the email termination letter, okay. Since no one knew that they'd been fired, when the Doge dumbasses showed up and demanded entry, they were denied because they didn't have ID badges. That goes back to the first part, okay. So they went to U.S. Marshal and they finally go through, okay. Like lots of other departments and some Democrats didn't do, you know, Chuck Schumer, they sued to block Doge from shutting the agency down. And the judge ordered Doge to leave the agency alone until the lawsuit could be ruled on. Okay, and it hasn't been ruled on yet. It's still pending. Okay. The board president did get fired. Okay, he was the only one who got the email. The judge denied Trump the power to install his own lackey to run the agency. Indigenous says, as much as I loathe the guy last Republican. Yeah, I said that. Okay. Give me just a second here, folks. I want to check something. Oh, because I figured it was going to be shorter today. Okay, so we're getting ready to shut this down. I wanted to hit the high points. I didn't want to go, you know, spend 4 or 5 hours on this. Okay, and I rambled anyway, you know, as I always do. So Pete Buttigieg said something a while back. Okay, he said when it first came, Trump was trying to do all this shit, and like he was trying to cut all the funding aid. Okay, and enough of the American people got pissed off. Okay, called their senators, called their congressmen, whatever. Okay, that he backed off. Okay, and like Buttigieg said, he is non-invulnerable. Okay, and enough people do things can be done. Okay, I myself, especially my little piddly ass, YouTube show or whatever, I can't do anything by myself. You can't do anything by yourself, but together we can do a heck of a lot. Um, One of their tactics is, whether it's in 2025 or Project 2025 or whatever, general Republican tactic in general, one of their tactics is to wear you down. It isn't so much, they're trying to wear you down. They're trying to say, well, it's of no use, and we got the power, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. You might as well give in, like these people in the government departments have done. Still pissed off about that. You do have the power. Like I said, look at how many people were in all the marches yesterday in every single state in the union. Even in, as Indigenous told me, even in South Dakota where they live. They had one there. There are other ones coming up, and I will keep you all appraised, notified of any ones that come up that I find out about. Okay. But you're not alone. All right. It is rough. I'm going to tell you right now. Believe me, I know. I'm a trans woman. I've got a target on my back from the government, flat out. And if they could, they would round me up and put me up against the wall. I guarantee it. They're not able to do that yet. So I'm trying to push back against that as much as I can, and all my allies and people in my community are trying to push that back. We're trying to push back against the illegal taking of people and putting them in another country. I mean, you even have the department or the government's lawyers, when they took a guy illegally, and he's a citizen, by the way, they took him and sent him to another country. Their rationale, behind that they don't have to do anything is, well, he's in another country now, and you don't have any power over that country, so there's nothing we can do. You're full of shit, and that's the problem. Is that people? I don't want to say every person. I mean, there's a lot of people. Look at all the people who showed up. There's a lot of people who do that. Some people, like me, physically can't go. Okay, so they do what they can online. They do what they calling our senators or congressmen or congresswomen. Writing emails, whatever. Okay, they do what they can. Talking about it on social media. Okay, they do what they can. So you do what you can, when you can, how you can. Okay, if you don't have the spoons for something on a particular day, don't do it. Okay, make sure that you take care of yourself, and make sure that you give yourself not only rest, but the grace to go. I can't do everything by myself. Okay, not only do I not need to do, can't do everything by myself. I don't need to. Okay, if I can only help on a Tuesday, I can only help on a Tuesday. If it's been a couple of weeks and now I can help, that's fine. Okay, don't criticize yourself for not being able to do everything, because none of us can do everything. But altogether, we can do everything. All right. So I'm going to shut it down. Like I said, in the pinned post, which I will make right after this, because I actually, I've been kind of slacking off on that, and I need to stop that. So I did make the pinned post today. Okay. All the data, the links, Project 2025, religion, whatever, all that's going to be in the pinned post. All right. I'm also going to link, like I said earlier, I gave a shout out to my friend who has the At Home in My Head podcast. Okay, I'm going to link that one. I have my link for BlueSky. I have my for the Angry Wrench. I write a comic strip called the Existential Cafe, which occasionally dips into politics, like it has been the last couple of weeks. That comes out on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Okay. And then also, as far as supporting the show financially, if you want to do, if you can do it, that's fine. If you can't, because I know how it is. Believe me, I'm on fixed income myself. I know how it is. But if you can either send it to my Gmail, and that's listed. Okay, or you can buy a sticker. Now the stickers are $2. Okay. And it's what company is it? Spreadshirt does it. Okay. And currently, right now, and they're only stickers for the Existential Cafe. I may put some other political stuff up there, but I got to figure out which ones I want first. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I've designed. So, but I'm definitely going to do. It's the cast. The first one is the cast of the Existential Cafe, and then in the next few days, I'm going to put up one of every single one of them. There's 10 total, counting the owner. Okay. There is Cthulhu, Hecate, Odin, Persephone, Yahweh, Venus, Satan, Jesus, Muhammad, and Anthony, the philosophy major waiter, who is the owner-operator of the Existential Cafe. And I have a lot of fun with it. There's times that I do humorous stuff. There's times that, I've also had walk-ons, like the last couple of strips. I've had uh, Christopher Hitchens. That didn't turn out very well for him. And I actually had, what is his name? Is it Mehmet? Mehmet? No. Hemant Mehta. Okay. Who goes by the name of the Friendly Atheist. He's also on BlueSky, and I follow him. So I tagged him. I thought, what the hell, I'll tag him so I can read it. He actually responded back, which I kind of geeked out about a little bit, And and the comic was fun. Okay, and it wasn't picking on him at all. And he said, you put me in the comic. Thanks, I think. But it was good. It was good. It was a good representation of him, I thought. And it's kind of fun to try to figure out with my art style how to draw those. Okay. So winding down, I'm going to try not to do the 5-minute goodbye. I do this show because of you, and I do this show because I want to share things with you, and I do this show because for some people may not hear all the crap, from other, from legacy media or whatever. So I run my mouth and I do what I can. Okay. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. If you want to do either, agree or disagree, put any comments you have in the comment section below. Show up for the next show, which will be next Sunday. I'm not sure what the topic is yet, but I'll announce that in the next few days on my Facebook and on BlueSky. Share it. Helps if you share it on your social media. Helps raise me in the algorithm. If you want to donate to my say GoFundMe. I don't have a GoFundMe. If you want to donate to my PayPal, or if you want to buy a sticker or whatever, for me it just seems better. If you're going to donate X amount of money, it's more bang for your buck if you donate it to PayPal. But if you want something physical as a evidence of your intake or interaction in the show, you can get the stickers or the T-shirts, whatever. And the stickers are usually cheaper than I think it's like a total of $6 to get a sticker. Where's my cup? Okay. So right here is the sticker that I have of the cast. Let's see if this shows up well. Of course it doesn't. Is it too bright? Okay, so let's put this up here. So you can see, it's a little blurry, but you can see cast. Okay. That's the sticker. It's like 2.5 inches by 4 inches or some crap like that. All the stickers are that size. All the stickers are a total of $6, shipping and everything. Okay. So pretty cheap. Like sometimes like I said, people don't have that amount of money, and that's fine. Don't short yourself. Don't try to short yourself. And I will have T-shirts up soon as well. They're also about half the price of any other place that you can buy them online, like Redbubble or Zazzle or Cafe Press or whatever, or even Spreadshirt. That's why I only do stickers on there, because their prices are so high for the shirts. And the last thing is, also there's cups on there, but I don't do the cups because here's the thing: you have a cup like this, okay? They don't sell this type of cup, but so you got your coffee cup, okay? On Spreadshirt, it's $25, I think, for the cheapest coffee cup. Whereas you can spend $6 on one of my stickers, buy a $4 coffee cup at Walmart or Meijer or wherever, okay, gas station, whatever, and throw it on there, and you just save yourself $15. Okay? So I want to thank everybody for showing up. I want you to, if you can, to try to take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones. I was going to say you matter, but then I remember an old T-shirt that said you matter unless your velocity is twice the speed of light squared, then you energy. Physics joke. I'm sorry, I'm a physics geek. But I want to thank everybody for showing up. I appreciate it. For those who took time out of their day to watch me run my mouth and spout my opinions. Where's my? Where the heck is my? There we go. All right. So, thank you for showing up. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Slan.